Konichiwa. Tonight we're making okonomiyaki. It's basically a cabbage pancake. It's really delicious. It's a great way to eat cabbage. Cabbage is one of those underestimated vegetables that are actually very good for us. And what better way to eat it than in a pancake? A savory pancake. So you can do lots of different variations or renditions with this recipe. I'm gonna keep it simple tonight and just show you the basic way to make the cabbage pancake, and then you can get all fancy schmancy from there. We might throw an egg on top of it tonight just because I'm feeling like adding a little bit more protein to this meal, but we're also gonna pair it with a side salad so we can make sure we're hitting all of our major food groups. Okay, so this is the book that I adapted it from. It's called Japanese Soul Cooking. I visited Japan 2 years ago and fell in love with their culture and their food and just everything about Japan. The first thing that we're gonna wanna do is get our batter going. And so this is gonna be a pretty basic batter. About half of a teaspoon of salt, and I'm gonna eyeball this. All right, did I say baking powder or baking soda? I said baking powder. Okay, half of a teaspoon of baking powder. Has anybody ever had a Japanese pancake, cabbage pancake before? It's really good. It's nice and savory. So we'll mix this guy up. And because I'm using whole wheat flour, it's gonna get a little drier than normal. So I'm gonna add just a touch more water to this and kind of help thin it out. Also keep in mind that you're gonna add 2 eggs to this batter. So it's also going to add a little extra liquid that way. A lot of the other recipes in the book for the okonomiyaki add meat to it. Pork is a popular one, so if you wanted to really keep it traditional, you could keep the pork in. I'm making a vegetarian version of this. We'll let this hang out for a second, and then what we're gonna do is go over and chop up our cabbage. So we've got a head of cabbage here. For this recipe, you really only need about half of this guy. We'll save him for, I don't know, maybe some slaw or maybe some, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll do another cabbage pancake tomorrow. Okay, and for the cabbage, you want to get that core out, if you can see it here. It's going to be a little too thick for this recipe. You could kind of dice it up and make it a little bit smaller, but I'm just kind of gently cutting the core like that, kind of following its shape. And then it just pops out like that. Pretty easy. So we're gonna cut these into squares. You don't wanna cut them too thin. You don't wanna shred your cabbage because you want some nice flavorful chunks of cabbage in here. So I'm gonna just kind of stick some of these aside just to reduce my prepping time here. And the reason that I'm doing this again is because it takes a little bit longer for these thick guys to cook. Hey Mom, thanks for tuning in. It takes a little bit longer for these thick ones to cook, and you're really only cooking the cabbage pancake a total of 5 minutes. So like 3 minutes on one side, 2 minutes, and then flipping it over again for another 3 minutes. And it's probably not gonna be enough time to cook these thicker pieces. And then we're also going to add 2 eggs in here. Our eggs in here. All right, so we'll mix all of this together. Cabbage, as I was mentioning earlier, I think cabbage gets a bad rap too because it's just kind of this light green, white color, and we don't think that it's got many nutrients in it, but it's actually very good for our digestive system, and it's got loads of antioxidants that help your body fight cancer. I'm gonna go ahead and get this pan heated up, and to keep with the Japanese theme, we're gonna use sesame oil in here. If you don't have sesame oil on hand, not a problem, just use an olive oil or use a canola oil. So you're gonna wanna fill the batter, or pour the batter in so that it almost fills your pan. And you want it to be relatively flat. It doesn't have to be perfect either. And we'll cook it for about 2 to 3 minutes on this side, and then we'll flip it. Okay, so we're gonna make a quick little sauce to put on top of it. This is called a Tonkatsu sauce. We're making a few modifications because I wanted to make sure that it was relatively accessible to most people that go grocery shopping. Mirin. So mirin is a sweetened sake. Sake is like an alcoholic drink. It's a rice wine vinegar, or it's a rice wine, excuse me. And sake is usually in this recipe as well, but if you don't have it, then you can replace it with mirin, which is basically sake. It's just a tiny bit sweeter. So you can always replace it with that, or you can replace it with rice vinegar, which is what I'm gonna do tonight. These are common ingredients that are found in the international aisle of your grocery store. So like the Asian, Mexican, Middle Eastern kind of cuisine aisle that you might have. Sushi Chef is a very popular brand and it's typically there. We're also going to add some miso paste. You're also going to want a sesame paste, which is basically tahini. So if you use tahini a lot, this is actually like a Middle Eastern thing, the tahini will work. For the small amount that we're going to do tonight, it's going to be 2 tablespoons of each of these ingredients. 2 tablespoons of miso. If you're not familiar with miso, this is the stuff they make miso soup out of in like sushi restaurants. 2 tablespoons of mirin. Sake or the rice vinegar. 2 tablespoons of our tahini. And just, you want to do this on a low heat because you don't want to burn any part of the sauce in here. And if it gets too thick, you know, add a little bit more mirin, or you could even add a little bit more water. All right. Okay, so we'll let that hang out for about 5 minutes. So what do you guys think of this so far? Give me a thumbs up if you think it's something you would make at home. And I'm gonna go ahead and just get a couple things for our salad ready. So I've got some lettuce here left over, some sprouts left over from the week. We're just gonna make some really quick side salads with that stuff. And then I've got this pepper that I started using. And I'm gonna go ahead and just slice this guy up to throw on that salad as well. Give me some sprouts. They're just so pretty. We eat with our eyes first, right? You can put some bell peppers on here. You can use any kind of dressing. I always recommend just doing a basic olive oil and vinegar if you have it on hand, like a balsamic vinegar. But you could also do a little bit of olive oil with like a squeeze of lemon would be good. I think for my salads, I'm gonna get a little crazy and use some of that Tonkatsu sauce and just put it on here, just to experiment. Why not? Y'all, this is gonna be so good. Then lastly, we'll just kind of top it with some scallion. This picture here is us when we had first gotten into Kyoto and we were like super tired, so I look pretty haggard in that picture, but we ate at this really cool restaurant where they had these little flat top grills in the middle of your table, and they gave you all the ingredients to make the okonomiyaki, and you got to make it yourself there at the restaurant. It was so much fun. Final product, I'll show you a little top-down action. We've got the okonomiyaki pancake here, and I just kind of cut it in half so it would fit on the plate. Tonkatsu sauce, a little bit of scallion, and a side salad to balance everything else out. It's so good. The Tonkatsu sauce really makes it, I think. But it's good because like you get these crispy bits of cabbage on the end here that have been cooked in the oil. It's so good. It's so simple, and you can do so many different things with it. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, it's 7:36, so this meal took about 30 minutes to complete from start to finish. You don't have to spend a ton of time in the kitchen to eat well and enjoy your food. Have an awesome night, and I will see you tomorrow.